So we had a baby naming here this morning, Baruch Hashem. And so I just want to talk a little about naming. When do we name? Why do we name? What can't we name? What should we name? So it's a little, very quick overview on the topic. So the first thing is the idea of names. Names, according to Jewish tradition, have an influence. It says that Adam went to all the different animals and he gave them names. And apparently, according to mystical texts and other texts I saw, he named them based on their essence. So he saw what their essence was and he gave them, so the chamor, for instance, the donkey, it carries burden, chomer, which is material. So it's named chamor. Each name has a certain significance, and so that's why people are, it's important to be careful with the names and try to pick a name that's a positive name if you can, or a name that has some sort of significance. And it says in tradition that in mystical texts it says that a parent has a little glimmer of divine inspiration when they give the name. Something. So I guess you don't have to worry too much. You can maybe rely on that a little bit. So when do you name the baby? So you name a baby boy at the bris. Now let's say the bris is delayed. Right? So what do? Do you name the baby immediately, or do you wait till the bris? So let's say the bris is going to be like in 30 days, and you know that the baby can't have their bris beforehand. So there are different customs. Some people say you do it when you can, do it the first Shabbat, when you read from the Torah. Other people say you should wait until the bris. I asked, and I was told that here we would do it when they come up to the Torah, not wait until the bris. Now, with regards to a girl, there are different customs as to when a girl is given a name. There's one, people say on the day she's born. Other people say that the first reading of the Torah, when we have reading the Torah, they bring up the parent, the father to the Torah, and we name the baby. Others say that you should wait until Shabbos. So different traditions. It's based on your custom. Here, it's usually people come the first opportunity they have they're able to come to the Torah. Then they'll give the name at that. That's what happened today. They'll give the name at that opportunity. Now, the original custom was now that's like when. Now, what about the names themselves? So, the original custom was to name the children after in the Tanakh after occurrences. So, think about it. You have Noach, who is named because he was going to give comfort to the people. He's going to Menachem. It was based on an event. Yitzchak, based on the fact that Rivka laughed. She laughed. Moshe, they pulled him out of the river. So based on occurrences, but it evolved through time, and the babies ended up being named after ancestors. So naming after ancestors. So we both Ashkenazim and Sephardim see it as a positive thing to name the baby after a dead relative, somebody that you hold in high praise and that you want to continue their name. One is that they'll follow in the ways of that relative. Another reason for that is that there's some say that they kind of continue the soul, their continuation of that soul to some extent, or the soul somehow rests upon that individual. So we want to give them that name of somebody that we hold in high regard. Now, with regards to living relatives, there's a debate amongst Ashkenazim and Sephardim on this. So Ashkenazim, they don't name a baby after a live relative, and Sephardim see it as an honor to do that. So it's like really two different approaches. And it says in the Talmud, Masechet Shabbat, Rabbi Natan, baby was named after him while he was alive, and so Sephardim rely upon that. But so the question is, why don't Ashkenazim name the baby after a live relative? What's the reason behind that? So I saw two reasons. One is that you're supposed to name the baby after an ancestor. Now, if you're going to name it after a live person, it might look as if you're waiting for that person to become your ancestor. So we don't want to do that. So that's one explanation. Another explanation is a little bit more complicated. It's a merit to have a deceased person to have a descendant named after him or her. Okay, so it's a merit. Now, if you name, so that you have someone's alive, Yaakov, you name the baby Yaakov. Now, then the Yaakov dies. Now you can't name anybody after that Yaakov in your family because you already have somebody in your family named after Yaakov. So that's like another explanation. Okay, so that's like in terms of naming after people who are alive. Now, there are things, it's said that you shouldn't name your baby after an evil person. Right? So I did know somebody in Israel, a friend in yeshiva. His name was Nimrod. That's not a good name in Jewish tradition. So those names are kind of being used. And I saw Rav Shlomo Aviner. He said that it's not a strict law. It's better not to do so. But he brought cases where, from the Jerusalem Talmud, where a baby was named Avshalom, which is not a good name, and Titus appears in the Talmud. So it's not like a strict law, but it's preferable not to do so for the same reasons that we want them to emulate the positive person's traits. We don't want them to emulate the negative or the soul of the negative. So you get the idea. But he says, Rav Aviner says, like not a strict law. It's good to stay away from that. Now, what about? So this is a question that somebody asked me. This is what spurred me researching this topic. So he said, I want to name my today. The baby that was named today had 3 names. Don't ask me to recite what they were. I don't remember all 3 of them, but it was Tova, Dvorah. Anyway, so Yafa, Tova, Dvorah. I don't know which order though. Okay. Anyway, so I was asked if they could name them 3 names. What about 4 names or 5 names or 2? No, so that Rav Kook actually has a responsum on this, and he says that a lot of our ancestors had multiple names. So he says that Moshe had 10 names according to the Midrash. So it's not clear if there were 10 consecutive names, but he's extrapolating from there to saying that we can name our children multiple names. It's like not a problem. Some of Moshe's names were Yered, Avigdor, Chever, Avisocho, Yekutiel, Tovia, Aviza, Noach. Anybody ever heard those names? Yeah, see. Okay, so those are some of Moshe's names. Here's a last question, okay? Can we name our children after impure animals? What do you think, yes or no? Sweet. If you think yes, raise your hand. Sweet. If you think no, raise your hand. If you're abstaining, don't raise your hand. Tzvi. So if you think about it, a lot of the names are based on impure animals. So Dove. Dove is a bear. It's not a pure animal. Ze'ev. That's a Hebrew name. Aryeh. I heard the name Aryeh before. So we don't eat lions. They're impure animals. So obviously there are many more of these kind of names. Dvorah. That's a bee, right? So obviously that's not a problem. So naming after an evil person would be a problem. Naming after an animal might not be a problem. And that's kind of like a general overview of names and